Hi, this is Stacey Hyde with Envision Financial Planning, and we're back for another episode of Better Financial Health in 15 minutes or less. What I'd like to talk today about is saving for kids' college, kids' education, or grandkids' college, grandkids' education. One thing I've noticed in talking with some of my clients is they're not real inclined to contribute to grandkids college because they feel like, well, that's something their parents can do, or I put myself through school working, or they can get a scholarship and it'll be okay. But if you haven't really looked at what college costs these days, it is crazy expensive. Like, for example, when I went to Ole Miss, I went on scholarship. So all my dad paid for my tuition and fees was $265 a semester. Now I still had dorm and meal plan and sorority and all that, but the tuition was not much. But tuition has gone up so much, so even people with quote unquote good scholarships are looking at tuition running $10,000 to $40,000 a year or a semester, and then you've got room and board on top of that. So I always encourage my clients to go ahead and contribute to those. Also, the thing to remember is that the interest rates on student loans are much higher than, say, mortgage loans these days. They also can be hugely expensive and punitive to kids as they're trying to get married, buy a house, have kids, that sort of thing. And those payments can really impact their ability to sort of get starting on life. There's actually been, the Wall Street Journal's actually done some studies on that it has slowed many people going that extra step to get married and start a family because they're worried about their student loans. So it is something there. The other thing that's important to keep in mind is the flexibility with 529 plans has really increased. And what I mean by that is that you can now use up to $10,000 a year out of a 529 plan to pay for private high school, private middle school. And that makes it much more flexible. So what can 529 plans be used for? I've already said it can be used $10,000 a year toward school pre-college. It can also be used for community college, any accredited undergraduate program. It can be used for graduate school, medical school, getting a master's degree. They are very flexible, and it's not just tuition. It can be used for room and board. It can be used to buy a computer, books. It cannot be used to pay sorority or fraternity dues, and it can not be used to pay travel expenses with semesters abroad. But if you have to pay the university for the ability to go and be in that degree credit hour program, that can be paid for out of a 529 plan. So they are very, very flexible, and you are doing your family a huge service. What's also nice is some people are worried, well, what if one child doesn't go to school? Well, you can move, the owner of that 529 plan can change the beneficiary to anyone in the same generation as that beneficiary without it being incurring gift tax or anything like that. So there is some flexibility there to move it among siblings. But you may want to make sure that you don't take it away from a younger one that's not had a chance to use it yet, but it is flexible, and it can be a huge benefit to your children and your grandchildren. It's also a great legacy asset. A 529 plan is one of the few things where you're making a gift. So when you pass away, the amount of money in that 529 plan is not what's called included in your estate, so it's not subject to estate tax. But you still maintain control of those assets, meaning you can change the beneficiary and that sort of thing. So there is a lot of flexibility there, and it can be just a huge benefit to your family because, as we all know, in this knowledge economy in which we operate, the ability to get the education you need, can be huge for how successful you can be going forward, and not having the overhang of student loan debt is just a tremendous blessing. So to sum up, each state can sponsor their own 529 plan. And many states both have what's called a direct plan, meaning that there's no advisor involved, you can just go purchase it on your own. And then many states will also have an advisor plan. For example, the state of Utah has one through T. Rowe Price. And so you can go purchase the Utah plan. Arkansas has one, Arkansas 529, and that is direct through the state of Arkansas. If you live in Arkansas or you pay Arkansas state income taxes, then using the Arkansas plan will actually, you can deduct contributions to that 529 plan up to certain limits from your state income taxes. Not federal, but state. It reduces your income for state income tax purposes. You know, in states like Tennessee, where there's no state income tax, there's not that advantage, so you can use the state plan or use another state's plan based on whose investments you like. There's a website called savingforcollege.com that rates the different states' plan, which is a great way to go look at that. And there are different ones where you can pick the underlying investments, or you can use what's called a target enrollment fund, which means that similar to a retirement target date fund, where it gets more conservative the closer you get to retirement, in these they get more conservative the closer you get to enrollment in college. So, and you can pick and choose and just do the research on the plan you're interested in. Definitely pay attention to fees and expenses, because the more you pay in fees, the less you have to grow to help offset those college costs. But we're big fans of them. For example, I used them with my kids. They were great benefit, and my kids actually didn't use them all up in undergraduate. So both my kids are doing some postgraduate stuff, and we're able to still use those for their benefit. And if they didn't use them all up, we would just keep the money there and hope that it benefited our grandkids. So it is nice that there's that level of flexibility there. And I would encourage you to take a look at that, both for your kids, if that's your situation, or for your grandkids. It's a great way to really make a lasting impact on your family, because education really is the key, and this is a way to make it easier. Thanks again for tuning in. This is Stacey Hyde with Envision Financial Planning, and this has been another episode of Better Financial Health in 15 Minutes or Less.